Welcome to Grandma's Verdict, and we invite you to watch a video with our new original story. Tessa cried quietly, hidden behind a rack of mops. Lately, she cried more and more often, but she always tried to do it at work, so that little Leo wouldn't ask any questions at home. He worried so much if his mother was upset about something. True, no one else in their family worried about Tessa. Quite the opposite. Every time she was at home, she would endure a barrage of insults. She had a husband, and her husband had a mother. And it seemed that the sole purpose of their lives was to humiliate Tessa. The young woman wiped her tears. What was the point of crying? Apparently, her life's mission was to be a victim. She looked at the clock. Another workday was over. Now she could go from one hell to another. Tessa came out of the supply closet and headed for the exit. "Tessa, where are you going? It's raining out there. And you have a hole in your shoe, I'm sorry to say." Tessa squeezed her eyes shut at the sound of laughter and quickened her pace. "It's not just her shoe. Her pants are see-through too. Any minute now we'll get a free show." Tessa was used to it. Well, if you can get used to being constantly mocked. There was no hole in her shoe, of course. And her clothes were not see-through. True, everything was old, and you could even say very old. But there was no money to buy anything new. Mark couldn't find a job, although even when he was working, he didn't give her any money. The most he could do was buy their son some little trinket. But Tessa didn't hold it against him. She understood that the family's well-being should rest on the woman's shoulders. And her husband always repeated to her, "If a woman can't make a home cozy and well-fed, then she's a bad woman." And so Tessa tried not to be a bad woman. She bent over backwards, having long forgotten about herself. Now she couldn't even remember the last time she had bought something for herself. She finally got outside and exhaled. For her, the hardest thing was always not to respond to the attacks of those she worked with. Yes, she was a simple worker and concurrently a janitor. And they bullied her for being a cleaner, for her clothes, and even for things she didn't even know herself. And yet, once when she was a child, life had been different. And she had known how to dream. Tessa was born into an ordinary family, except that it was a very loving one. In all her life, she had never heard her mother or father raise their voices to each other. The girls whose parents were constantly arguing, divorcing, and remarrying were black with envy. Even Chloe, whose parents were very, very wealthy, would always sigh, "You're so lucky, Tessa. I wish my parents cared about me like that. But no, they don't even care what time I come home." Everyone else envied Chloe. Chloe had everything they didn't have. But Tessa wasn't envious. You don't make friends because of things after all. Chloe, who felt everything perfectly, was friends only with Tessa. Well, that is for real. And then tragedy struck. Tessa lost her parents in one day. No one asked what was on her mind. No one was interested in her feelings. A fat aunt and a man in uniform just tore her hands from the cross on the grave and dragged her to a car. Chloe rushed to intercept them, pushed them away and hugged Tessa, and the two girls stood there and cried. The aunt was about to move towards them, but then Chloe's mother arrived. "Have you completely lost your minds? Have you lost all humanity? Let the girls say goodbye." Chloe's mother looked very presentable, and the aunt hesitated. Who knows, maybe she was some big shot. Chloe stroked her hair and said, "Tessa, we'll definitely see each other again. Don't cry, you're strong, everything will be fine." She never saw Chloe again. The group home was like a school of survival, then attempts to start some kind of normal life, then meeting Mark, marrying him in the hope that she would finally break out of the vicious circle. Tessa had already reached the door, lost in thought, and didn't notice Vera, the most sharp-tongued of their employees. They collided and Tessa's button, as if by Murphy's Law, flew off and rolled across the floor. Vera laughed out loud. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry I've ruined your outfit. Your royal outfit." Tessa covered her face with her hands and ran outside. Tears again filled her eyes. She ran without looking where she was going, and only calmed down in front of the kindergarten. She had to pick up Leo. She was passing by on her way from work anyway, so Mark didn't go to get him. "Mrs. Thompson, I understand everything. Times are tough and all that. But please buy Leo a new jacket. He's long since outgrown this one. They didn't even take him out to play today because he would have been freezing in it. Tessa nodded like a beaten dog and, grabbing her son's hand, rushed outside. More than anything in the world, she was afraid that her son would one day have to meet with social services. And at this rate, it wasn't far off. No, she would talk to her husband now. How much longer could this go on? His mother was living with them, not giving a penny from her pension, but buying herself treats and eating them quietly in her room. And she was probably feeding Mark as well. Her husband met her in the hallway. "What took you so long?" "I'm hungry." "Why didn't you cook? You would have lost your appetite. And you would have fed your wife after work." "What next?" "I'm a man." "What's a woman for then?" Tessa looked at him wearily. "I'm also wondering what for?" Conjugal duties between them occurred no more often than once every 3 months. Mark thought that Tessa was talking specifically about this. "My God, have you seen yourself? Sleeping with you is like performing a feat." Tessa wasn't even offended, she smiled easily. "I wonder why other men's wives look good?" Mark even opened his mouth from such audacity and didn't immediately find what to answer. But his mother-in-law immediately stood up for him. She came up so that Tessa didn't even see her. "Who's opening their mouth here? They took you in here, made a human being out of you. And what? You should be grateful for the rest of your life. Because you didn't end up a drunk behind a fence like all your orphanage types, but you live under a roof over your head. And if you talk too much, you'll be out on the street in a flash." Tessa felt tears close by. She tried to hold them back, but she knew that she couldn't. She couldn't take it anymore. "And maybe it would be better for me on the street. I wouldn't have to feed the two of you, two freeloaders." Silence immediately fell. Her mother-in-law, like a real snake, hissed, Get out of here. Go wander, beg, they'll take your child away from you and send him to a group home. It serves you right." Tessa had never packed so quickly. Leo was crying quietly. He always cried when they yelled at his mother. And in this house it happened constantly. When they went outside, Tessa had time to think that she had done a foolish thing. But where would she go with a child? "Mom, we're not going back, are we?" "I don't want to." She looked at her son. "Everything will be fine, my dear. I promise you Mom will think of something." She went to her coworker. Mrs. Gable had long been retired and worked as a cleaner in the same place as Tessa. After listening, she nodded. "You should have done this a long time ago. I have an empty room, make yourselves at home. I've already submitted my resignation anyway. I'm tired, I'm old. I need to rest a little." Tessa couldn't sleep all night. She needed money urgently. The kindergarten teachers were right. Leo had long outgrown everything. And Tessa herself was wearing rags. And she had to do something about housing. The state hadn't given her anything because she was registered in her parents' apartment. And the fact that no one lived there and the building was in a state of disrepair didn't bother anyone. They just told her, "Wait for resettlement. You're not the only one." In the morning, Tessa sat down in front of Mrs. Gable. "Can you look after Leo for a couple of weeks? In general, I need to earn some money." "Of course I can. We've known each other for a long time." "Tessa, you're not planning anything bad, are you?" "Oh no, of course not. Everything is legal, it will just take some time." Of course, she didn't tell the old woman that she had decided to sell her kidney. This would solve all her problems. And some people live their whole lives with one kidney. 3 days later, a doctor came into her ward. "All your tests are normal. You're fit to go to space. Could you come with me? There's a woman whose life your organ will save. She's been waiting for a very long time." And as luck would have it, all the other options were unsuitable. They say that rich people are happy because they don't have to think about anything. But that's not true. She has more money than she knows what to do with, as she says herself. But she got sick, and no amount of money can help if a replacement can't be found. Tessa nodded and stood up. It would be interesting to see who she was saving from death. The doctor was right, of course, but only halfway. Because if that woman didn't have money, she wouldn't be able to pay for Tessa's help. "And how old is she?" The doctor glanced at her. Oh no, what are you talking about your age? It's even surprising she doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke, but there you have it. Although, most likely it's genetics plus a bad environment plus something else. Here we are. Don't worry, we won't be long. The person just wants to thank you. And who is she? Oh, she's a very big person in our city, the owner of factories, newspapers, steamships. In short, wherever you spit, she's bought it. He opened the door. Mrs. Edwards, may I? Tessa flinched. What a familiar combination, as if something from childhood had wafted over her. They went in, and Tessa stood as if rooted to the spot. On a high hospital bed, covered in all sorts of tubes, lay Chloe. Her Chloe from her childhood. Chloe! The young woman stared at her in surprise, and a second later she gasped. Tessa? Tessa, it can't be. They hugged and cried, and the doctor looked on thoughtfully at the whole scene. If the patient now refused her friend's kidney, then that was it, it was the end. She wouldn't last a month. And what to do now he had no idea. Tessa, how are you? I tried to find you but I couldn't. You probably got married, your last name is different. Tessa wiped her tears. That's right. Chloe suddenly faltered. Tessa, wait. So you're my donor? Did something happen to you? Do you need help? Oh, it's a long story. My husband kicked me out because I dared to say a word against him. And I have a child. No place to live. A dead-end job. In short, a whole bouquet. Tessa, I'll help you. Everything will be fine. You don't need to sell your kidney. No, I won't allow it. The last thing we need is to lose our health over this damned money. The doctor sighed heavily. Well, that's what I thought. And what now? Where am I going to dig up another donor? He was even afraid to think about the fact that he might not be able to find one. He went out and slowly walked towards his office. Half an hour later, there was a knock at his door. Yes, come in. The door opened. On the threshold stood Tessa. Did you want something? You can go home. Tessa came over and sat down. There are no other donors, are there? No, not yet. We've been waiting for you for more than 3 months. And what? What are the chances for Chloe? Bad. She's been on the machines for a very long time. A month. Her body can't take it anymore. I understand. We're doing the surgery. And to Chloe, you'll say that the donor wanted to remain anonymous. The doctor stood up then sat down. Are you sure? She said she would help you anyway. I'm sure. More than sure. Tessa was smiling. She felt as if she had been put through a meat grinder. But when she woke up, Chloe was smiling. Her Chloe would live and they would both live. They might not be able to do everything that everyone else could, but they would still live. You never listened to anyone. Tessa turned her head. It turned out that Chloe had woken up nearby. The same doctor was bustling around her. He smiled and looked at Tessa. Well, girls, you've caused quite a stir. The whole hospital is talking about female friendship now. And I always believed that there's no such thing as female friendship. They were in the same ward. When things got a little easier, Chloe gave Tessa a real interrogation. She had to tell her everything. I'd like to get my hands on your Mark. And Leo, your son, where is he now? With Mrs. Gable. We work together. No, Tessa, you can't live like this. Let's start with you. You shouldn't be a doormat. Remember how we were. We didn't let anyone push us around. A day later, Leo came to visit her with Mrs. Gable. Chloe had already taken care of that. The old woman was gushing about how some people had come and brought everything, food, clothes, for both Leo and her, and that they were even renovating their place now. Then she shed a tear that Tessa had decided to do such a thing. But they were discharged on the same day. A whole crowd was there to meet them. Tessa met Chloe's friends and Chloe met Tessa's husband. He, having heard that his wife would receive a huge amount of money, had decided to show up. Tessa, why didn't you tell me? I would have visited you. Chloe looked at her friend sternly and Tessa, without thinking, replied, Thank you, Mark, I don't need anything more from you. Mark wanted to say something else, but the doctor pushed him aside, took Tessa by the arm and led her to the car. Tessa, and what do you think about me inviting you to the movies? Well, once you're on your feet, of course. And her recovery was quite fast, because she was cared for every day by her beloved doctor. And 6 months later, Chloe threw them a lavish wedding. If you enjoyed the story, please support me with a subscribe button. It's very important to me. Stay with us, we have many more interesting and real-life stories.